Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Well, recently it's been thank goodness for the Missouri Tigers as we start up our Danny and Stan's football weekend presented by Park University. The Missouri Tigers are the only college team in our area in action in the direct tightened area. Beside Pitt State, Northwest Missouri playing, and the Tigers did their job. A little bit of struggles in the defense in the second half, but they held Mississippi at arm's length. And then came Sunday, and another frustration-filled day for Chiefs fans. It looked like it was going to be rebound time when it was 17-3, but in the end, it's another tough loss, 2 in a row at Arrowhead. Hadn't happened since the first year of Andy Reid's tenure. Those are some of the things on the table today with Stan Weber, and also Kansas and Kansas State get back into action. We'll visit a little bit on what they have to do to get things on track, if they are indeed to get on track. All that comes your way next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by Park University.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Stan, there are many reasons people should listen to this podcast, but certainly one or two of them is the fact that if they had been listening to this podcast all along, and of course they should be, they would have been kind of ready for what's happened the last 2 weeks. Now, the Chiefs could have avoided it. They could have made a play or two. Patrick Mahomes could have been a little healthier. They could have won the games, but in the end they didn't. And I would say the opponent deserved to win in both cases, and the prescription was the same. And the Texans yesterday probably carried it out even to a greater extent because they made quite a few mistakes that for much of the game looked like they were going to be ruining after the game. But despite 10 penalties, despite dropping potentially 3 touchdown passes, despite all that, they did enough good things to overcome it and win the game, and they did it in the fashion we've just been talking about.
We knew the Chiefs were at risk of a strategy of controlling the ball, keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, running the ball, taking advantage of the Chiefs' deficiencies in the running game. Those things are all true, but the one thing that's a little bit different that is concerning is a question that you asked me a couple weeks ago, and that is, have we seen a little bit of a blueprint of how to attack the Chiefs? And that was before they lost a game, because we were already talking about this in the Ravens game, for instance, and the Detroit Lions game is another game that the Chiefs were still undefeated, but you saw that I thought there are ways to attack the Chiefs and heighten your chances of winning. It doesn't mean the Chiefs aren't still the favorite in all of these situations, and they could have won their games, even the last two, but there is a formula. But the one thing that may be different today, you asked me that question about the blueprint, and I basically said no because I believe offensive coordinators in today's strategy, and they're big in the analytics, and a good running team might near 5 yards a running play, and a bad passing team is still at 6.5 yards per play. And they don't worry about interceptions anymore. So, you don't worry about getting sacked. There's a lot of things that have changed, so teams are going to lean on the pass. What I said to you weeks ago was if I were the head coach, I would tell my offensive coordinator, we better have run the football as much as we passed today. But I didn't think anybody could live up to that, not in today's day and age. And all you got to do is get ahead. And the Chiefs are good at getting ahead. That's a great formula to get them off their game and panicked. The Ravens are a great example. Why they didn't continue to run their running quarterback, who yesterday, by the way, ran for 152 yards against the Bengals as a Baltimore Raven. Why didn't they stick with that? I said, what are you talking about here? You should stick with the run. It's your only chance, even if you're down by double digits. Well, the Colts played a game where they had control, they had the lead, and they stuck with the strategy. And it was so extreme compared to football today that maybe it started giving people hints, but I wasn't worried about it. Now I am. I think the formula has been laid out there. The Texans played it out. They were down by double digits. They had lost a ton of momentum. The Chiefs had 10 points, and the Texans had one play, and it was a fumble. And things did not look good. And yet they kept their composure, continued to stay with the strategy.
And they kept their composure twice, at 10-0 and at 17-3.
Right. They stuck with the plan, which is the best plan to beat the Chiefs. If teams actually stick with it, it's there. It's available to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. For them to hold the ball 40 minutes and allow the Chiefs only 20 minutes of play and not that many offensive plays, it is a great philosophy. Plus, it puts stress on the Chiefs' offense. They get in a hurry. Andy Reid has been criticized for many, many years about getting away from the running game and throwing. Actually, he was ahead of the curve. He threw the ball in Philadelphia like everybody throws the ball now. But now he's taking it to another level, and you press him a little bit, and he's just avoiding the running game at all costs and just sticking with the pass. Well, why wouldn't you? But I think some of the 3-and-outs that the Chiefs ended up with at the end of the game are just that uncomfortable feeling of standing on the sidelines forever and saying something has to happen. Not only not running the football, but every play there's so much stress on you, an internal stress, like we have to drive the ball on this possession, and that's the best for the defense. So all these things play together. There's been a lot of debates, especially in the Kansas City area, about does the running game matter anymore and all of those things. And it just, all of football matters. The physicality of it, breaking people's will, being able to put doubt in defensive linemen's heads. You might run, you might pass. Game pressure. Bill Self talks about putting game pressure on. I think the Chiefs offense felt some game pressure at the end, and it all helped the Texans win. But I want to talk about the next step here because we're going to look at the runs and say the Texans ran the ball one less time than they passed, which in modern terms means they really stuck with the run.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because teams are throwing the ball almost 2/3 of the time right now and all down and distances and situations. But, Danny, here's the next step. If you look at the Texans game and you look at the Colts game, there's an added strategy to this that we must point out. They're not just running the football. When they're passing, they're throwing very quick, short passes, which are the New England Patriots equivalent to running the football. So how many times did the Texans really throw the ball downfield? Not many, and it actually was a bad strategy because it gave the Chiefs a free 2nd and 10 when they tried to strike downfield. You look at the two big receivers that they had out there, Hopkins and Fuller, averaged less than 10 yards per reception, way less. But they were reliable when they needed to catch the ball on 3rd down, and they were open, and it was a simple throw. When they threw the pass short, it's an automatic completion, and you don't get sacked, no chance, and then you put the linebackers or safeties and cornerbacks in open field situations to try to make a tackle, and how many times did you see them whiff? What could have been a 4-yard pass completion ended up being a 15-yard completion. So the strategy is not just to run more than you ever think you should. I think that's number one, and maybe teams are going to buy into it. But number two is throw very short passes that are the equivalent to the run, but put everybody in a bind. Because if you really want to put your big boy shoulder pads on and stop the run, and I mean, you heard the Chiefs players after the game, it's not the coaches, it's not the strategy, we got to be stronger, we got to get off our blocks. Well, guess what? You fake up the middle when you've been giving up a lot of run yards, Your outside linebackers have to take a step. Your middle linebackers take a step up, and you go, oh, it's a pass, and over in the flat is a guy open. It's just like having a running play with a different guy. Like, where did he show up? So they've combined the strategies very well. Even when they pass, they rarely are passing the football. They're just throwing the new version of the running game in short passes.
Three or four times they ran that play to the tight end, and the throw was like from me to you, and we're sitting about 2-3 yards apart.
Yeah, no,
that play looked like it could have worked all day long. I was surprised they didn't run it more.
That's 7th or 8th grade football. I mean, that's what when you really couldn't pass. Nowadays, kids are more coordinated, but back when we really couldn't pass, we'd call a pass play like fake a run and have the quarterback take a couple of steps and throw a little dart, and that's what it was. I mean, we, like all listeners listening now, you and me, Danny, we could have all completed that pass. And right. I think there's probably some ladies who are interested in the podcast. Maybe I'm saying everybody. I'm just, if you haven't thrown a pass, that tight end was so close. Like right. You're saying, he's wide open, no one in between. And where were all the defensive ends and their hands up? No, linebackers. No, where were they, Danny? They had to adhere to the run fake. They had to hope they could stop somebody, and it leads to the easy pass. But controlling the football and doing the things that we've seen be done is a great strategy. I'm a little worried that the blueprint has been put out there, and maybe Patricia is getting more respect around the league because he knows Bill Belichick, and anything that he does might be, hey, Bill Belichick talked about that, the man-to-man defense on the Chiefs and those kind of things. But it's interesting, and the Chiefs' schedule isn't easy. That's a real point here. The Chiefs are the favorite. I still think the Chiefs are going to win the division. This weekend actually turned out to be pretty good. I mean, the Chargers stink. Right. I mean, you're clearing the way. The Steelers win. They're 2-4. Danny, they're a non-factor. They're not going to win a division. So you really you woke up the Texans. I think that was the headlines in my mind, is the Texans are a team I don't think that really have the DNA to think about being a champion. They're not there yet. They're years behind the Chiefs. They're more like the Alex Smith teams where the Chiefs fans said, we might win the division, but we're not going to win we're not going to win enough playoff games to go to the Super Bowl, not us. Well, that's what the Texans are. That might have changed yesterday, because when you go to Arrowhead and you play Patrick Mahomes, all the hype we have around him, all the confidence we have in the Chiefs, that's the way the Texans look at him, and they came in and outplayed him, dominated him physically, had the ball the whole game, and feel like they should have won by 2 touchdowns or 3 rather than a close game. If they would have played another half, they wouldn't have been scared, hey, the Chiefs might have caught us. I think they would have said, we would dominate even more. They had more 10-play drives than any time in Texans history. Now, this isn't a 100-year franchise, but still, they never punted. They never came close to punting. There was third down conversions, but really, they had an NFL game played that way. I think the Texans, could put together a season that maybe got them to 2nd seed instead of the Chiefs if the Chiefs continue to struggle, maybe. Or they've made them dangerous, that they believe, why not us? Why isn't it the Patriots, Chiefs, and Texans? That's the thing I'm looking for right now. Which team plays at a high enough level game after game and gains confidence that they can compete at the highest level? I think right now there's only 2 teams. It's the Chiefs and the Patriots. So I still think overall we can talk negatively, because this is not much of a change of what we've talked about for weeks. This is just the odds going against you. It happens to be at home, makes it uglier. But still, the Chiefs are a good team, should be going into the playoffs with a big chance. How does Patrick Mahomes' ankle affect him? That's a question. It's great to see Tyreek Hill back, but it would be nice to see a Sammy Watkins back and add another weapon to get things going. We got to ask ourselves all of those questions. Are teams figuring out the Chiefs a little bit? Are the Chiefs taking things for granted? Like, they were great. There's a lot of things that it makes the NFL fun. You don't just get advanced to the Super Bowl. Just watch Belichick. You might think he's boring, Danny, but if we could jump into his mind, I would bet a lot of money that he's not thinking that this is just a 2-game season. I mean, why wouldn't the Patriots think that? Why wouldn't they just go, advance us to the playoffs and let's just play 2 games and see if we get to the Super Bowl? No, because it doesn't work that way. They're worried about every game, and the Patriots do it without any messing up, any inefficiencies, and we need to jump into that as fans. This Denver game is big, because you go to Denver, this is a football team that hasn't allowed anybody to score 30 points this year. The offense has only scored, I think the most is 24 points. But you look at the schedule that Denver's played, and you can make a case that they're a better team than we're portraying them to be. Everyone wants to write them off like they're awful. Well, they're not awful, and they're gaining a little momentum. The Chiefs are beat up. It's a quick turnaround. This game's the NFL. It's dangerous, and you don't want to put a third loss on and a loss in the division. Then things start getting a little more dangerous. So I love the integrity of the NFL, that you can't just advance yourself to the playoffs. But obviously, it's rough waters. Play well this Thursday, and everything will be fine.
Just want to ask you real quick about a couple quick quarterback questions and one overall pro football question before we move to the college game. How do you see Patrick Mahomes being compromised? It isn't just the fact that he can't run. He didn't look that great throwing the ball sometimes. He barely completed 50% of his passes. He was a little bit more inaccurate. How is he compromised with that ankle?
He doesn't want to press down and follow through as much. He doesn't need to because he has a high skill level. But let's just say he probably throws the ball. Let's put some markers out here. Drew Brees is starting to complete passes at 70% level, and so is Russell Wilson. Okay, to do that, you're going to have a few drops and things like that. So you're probably delivering the ball at an 80% rate on your passes. But those guys still like to throw, shorter passes. Russell will launch the ball a little bit more, but not like Patrick Mahomes. They throw the ball downfield more than anybody else. But I'll propose to you, just to show you how great I think Patrick Mahomes is, that he might be delivering the ball accurately 80% of the time, including the downfield throws. That's crazy for me to say that, but I think his deep balls are accurate. Now, if he is that outrageously good, I can tell you that that's with his full fundamentals and healthy. That's not jacking around saying, I'm not going to use my fundamentals. Why would he ever start with, I like not using fundamentals? Just because he can doesn't mean he ever trains and says, I don't want to do it well. So when he is able to do things well, I think he's 80+% completion guy. When he is not following through onto his left foot and transferring his weight over, I think that you probably lose 15% completion percentage. So he still looks normal in NFL stats. But I said a couple weeks ago, on a couple of his deep balls, he's just hoping that the guys are in the right area. And we can blame it on the receivers and that kind of thing. But I think it's probably that he just is not putting pressure on his left foot and just flicking his wrist. And you can flick your wrist, he can, for 10-yard completions like it's no big deal. But when you start throwing the ball 20 yards downfield and so forth, you miss a guy by a yard. You throw the ball with a little more loft, which makes the receiver have to wait, and then the defender might bump into him rather than him catch it on the run. So I do think the fundamentals are a little bit less. I think that injury is a greater subconscious factor for him. And I think we saw some great replays yesterday. We don't get to see a replay of every one, but there were ones where he should have rolled onto his left foot and his right foot kind of almost like his toe should have drug up to be equal to where his left foot was, if that makes sense. And instead of doing that, instead of putting his left foot, let's say a half a step forward and then following through, he just pulled his left foot to the side, almost like he's starting to do the splits, and just threw the ball. And said, I'm not going to put weight on that leg. Now, the next question is, everyone says, well, should we just rest him and wait for him to get better? And the answer is an absolute giant no. Okay? No. You do not pull yourself out when you're the type of leader that you need to be. And you say, well, Patrick, this is a new era, and Patrick's talent's so great, and all we're going to try to do is win the playoffs, so why don't we rest him for 3 weeks? Danny, that doesn't cut it. The thing we're missing in most of our discussions, I believe, and I love analytics. Hey, I love numbers. I love analytics. I love what we're talking about and how smart people are about football. But the thing that they don't factor in enough is the respect that, a guy like Tim Grunhard, when he speaks, or Trent Green, they're in the huddle. And they understand when the sweat's rolling down your face and you have a stinking helmet on. And those are bad dudes on the other side. There's something real and different about playing the game. It does matter that he's their leader. It matters. It's not just, let's get him more healthy and then he'll kill the world. No, when you're the guy that everyone looks to and all the subtleties that he adds of being a superstar, and the man is that he shows up and plays. Anytime he can play, get out there and play. I think it's a critical issue. We have so many injuries in the NFL right now. It is a giant story. Every game, the announcers have, a minute and a half, a minute to give it, in TV football.
Now they go to commercials.
I mean,
when
they don't get to do much intro. And you know what every one of them says in their intro? This team is really beat up. I mean, that is the only story I hear. The secondary for the Colts is so beat up. They're hanging on a thread. It's every week, every team. And I don't like this. Oh, that's the NFL. No, that's the modern NFL. That's the modern NFL where you don't practice in the two-a-day period, or they don't do two-a-days. They do not play football and get themselves ready. That's why they're more susceptible to injuries. They're getting injuries because they don't go through that early period investment of being bruised, beat up, sore, and risking injury so that you don't get injured later. And secondly, these guys call injuries so fast, they must be all 100-meter track guys. Because the 100-meter, you know what I'm talking about? Right. The 100-meter track guy goes, not running. Like, what happened? I feel something. One of my little, my muscle, I could feel if I happen to run this race, I might blow out my hammy. Like, you might blow out your hammy. These guys are walking off the field saying they're hurt so fast. They're so aware. They're more doctors than the doctors. Not tough in my mind. Not old school football enough to get your butt out there and play. Drag your leg and get out there and play. That's my mentality because it leads to better teams. But the NFL players are quick to call uncle and say, I'm out of here. And the doctors are scared, so they're pulling them out quicker, and they're not getting ready. Injuries are a giant story. If you can get out there and play and show that leadership as a quarterback, I think it's critical.
The other issue I wanted to talk to you about is penalties. And I'm going to come at this from a completely different standpoint, and nobody's going to like it. I'll guarantee you that. When I watch these games and we see the replays, these penalties most of the time are penalties. Stop committing them. I mean, you can complain all day long about, they're calling defensive holding on because they're holding, and holding to the extent where it's really affecting the receiver's ability to catch the football. All right, if some guy's holding the guy's shirt and he still catches the ball or whatever, no need, no necessity. But when the ball's on the ground because you held or interfered, or the quarterback was able to get rid of the ball because you held as an offensive lineman, I don't see many phantom calls out there. Everybody's outraged, but my outrage is more with the players than with the officials. Now, were there a couple bad calls out there yesterday? Of course there were. But most of the time it's like, well, darn, the Chiefs' defensive backs, they hold. I mean, you can't argue. I don't stop holding. It's like they're coached to hold.
I am just at a loss of what the answer is, because let's just talk about it. Your point is well taken, and I'm not at all disagreeing with that. Let's start on the other end of the spectrum for just a second. Not if they're good calls or bad calls. Too many flags. I mean, there is a flag on almost every play. And hey, Danny, I'm watching a lot of games, okay, and it really takes away from my enjoyment that I'm looking for flags more than I am plays. So it's a third down throw, and if it's complete, great, but then I wait, 1001, 1002.
Wait for the thing to come on the screen.
Because there could be a holding call back there.
Right.
Okay? And then if it's incomplete, I don't at all think the play's over. I go 1001, 1002, and I'm most likely expecting them to say, flag on the play, holding, illegal contact, pass interference. And then when they don't call it, you're like, wait a second, that looked like all the other plays. But I don't disagree with you. It's not like the officials should eat the flags and not throw them. There are fouls being committed out there.
I know.
When are we going to get the adjustment? If it's 3rd and 13, you should tell your guys, make sure you don't touch the wide receivers. But we see lockdown, tight man-to-man, and you see, holding, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if I'm on the defensive side, I think I would just have a different message of we can't touch them.
How about this? Push them. Don't grab them. At least you'd get called for interference. Of course, that would be a first down too. Yeah, but so there's no good solution. But it just seems like, well, I've got an impossible job and I can't do it without hold in a different way or contact the man. Play it like basketball. These are fouls in basketball out in the open court, cut and dried. I mean, they are.
Maybe if it's 3rd and 10 or more, I mean, I have somewhat a solution. Let them catch it and then tackle them. Don't
Right.
Don't touch them. I mean, don't touch them. Be nearby, but do not touch them, and then tackle them. I don't know, but if it's 3rd and 5, that's when the game's won. That's when I think football's won. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7. Who wins the battles? And you got to be physical. And there the pick plays are out there, and we're calling more offensive pass interferences. They're legit, but they just another flag. There's a lot of issues. But before we go on the Chiefs, I do have to make one comment because this is not second guessing. Okay, this give me my Bible or whatever, Danny. When Thornhill caught the interception in the end zone before the half, I mean, I immediately said that is the dumbest thing ever. That is a guy. What is he thinking? And then I guess you got to go back to the coaches because everyone may consider, well, it's heat of the moment or whatever.
Reaction play,
I knew it was the heat of the moment when I was in 9th grade, and I would have knocked that thing down. So there are kids who actually study football who know, unless maybe he's thinking about his contract. I'm joking. I mean, his contract is like,
guys
hey,
want to make
how many
plays.
interceptions did you get? And you're so glad to see the ball floating to you. But what a killer. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs got sacked, lost a fumble. There's a lot of other things. But that all would have happened out at the 40-yard line.
Yes.
And
they probably wouldn't have scored.
And they
might have got a field goal.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Probably so, but you wouldn't have turned the game upside down. For just a basic 9th grade play, 7th grade play, whenever your kids start football, I mean, you knock it down on 4th down. You take the ball, and the Chiefs could have turned the game upside down by just easily moving the ball 1 or 2 plays and got into field goal range and left the half going, hey, how do you like this, Texans? You may get the ball first, but you just gave us some free points by throwing the ball deep, which really never worked for the Texans. So I just thought, if you want to criticize something, I think that is way up on the order, that individual either didn't make a good play, or if you want to just blame the coaches, go ahead and blame them. The defense is bad. You need to be latching on to every mental opportunity you get. And knocking that ball down was the easiest defensive play the Chiefs had all day long, and it wasn't even close. I mean, he sat underneath like he had to catch a punt or something. And so I immediately, I'm texting all my buddies like, what the heck? Because I thought the Chiefs just gave up 3 or 7 points because I thought they could drive from out near 35, 40-yard line, wherever they were. Now they're probably going to have to kneel down, not go for it. I'm not saying I'm criticizing Andy Reid for going for it.
No.
It's just that I thought, well, Chiefs missed an opportunity. Then all of a sudden it turned around and it just gave the Texans such new life. That was a bad play.
Very bad play. No question about that. Let's talk about some good plays. The Missouri Tigers made quite a few of them. There are little complaints you see on Twitter. Would the defense please let this game get put away? But they get the win over Ole Miss. They keep them at arm's length most of the way. They're the area team that it's in action. We'll talk about them and the return to play of Kansas and Kansas State coming up next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Back with Stan, and I had another whole topic about pro football, but I'll save it for another day. So
why would you save it, Danny?
Because
I don't understand this. This is the magic of podcasts. It's not like someone else takes over at the top of the hour and your show's over with.
I'm going to tease that for another day because it's an evergreen topic. Let's turn to college football.
It can be answered any time.
Yes, exactly.
Now, I hate when guys do this, Danny, when they say, after the break,
and then
we're going to talk about this, and then they completely forget.
I didn't do that.
So I'm wondering if you're going to remember this topic, this evergreen topic.
I will remember it.
I hope they text you and email you back and get on your website and criticize you next week if you don't think of this subject.
All right, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now.
That's what should happen.
Because Stan Weber seems convicted on this, but we're going to do it rather quickly.
You can give me a time limit. You can say we're out in 1 minute. That's fine.
Rather quickly. Let's do this, and then we'll move on to college football. I think that it could well have been a bad call on Travis Kelce. Okay, the way that they explained it, ball was already released, but that wasn't thrown. But and everybody loves him, and they ought to love him till the ends of the earth. But Patrick Mahomes' explanation after the game that Travis Kelce was the intended receiver on that pass, in my mind, is complete and utter garbage. If you watch that play, you're telling me that Mahomes is releasing a pass 20 yards deeper than Kelce was at the moment, and DeAnthony Thomas was in the pattern over there. So I'm calling bull S on that explanation. I'm not saying that it wasn't a bad call on Kelce, but to tell me that he was the intended receiver when DeAnthony Thomas is right there and the ball was thrown 20 yards beyond where Kelce was supposedly making this double move, and he throws the ball that hard, Kelce had no chance to get to that area of the field. In my mind, no chance.
Well, let's bring it back to something we said this time and last week as well in the podcast, that he is, if he were to throw it to Kelce for just a second, he is just hoping that it ends up being a completion. That's completely different than seeing a guy who's stride for stride with another guy. That's open. I mean, he can say, I'm going to zip this ball.
Sure.
But when you say, I was lofting it up for him, and he is just mauled and not anywhere close, kind of leads back to my, Patrick's doing a little bit of that. Like, I'm going to lay it up in that area of the field, and I'm going to be fine. Well, that's dangerous. And he put air under it. So none of those things are good. The other thing that he said that leads to a little less comfort in any of this explanation is he said, I didn't see the flag thrown. I just saw Kelce getting mauled, so I assumed I don't even know how to finish that sentence. Did he say everything was okay? So I was going to throw it up there, and I knew I was going to get a flag, even though I didn't see a flag. Aaron Rodgers has made a living out of this. When he sees someone jump, he throws the ball deep. The Chiefs got a free touchdown. He wouldn't have thrown that ball up into double team and let
did
Tyreek
see the
Hill.
flag that time.
Yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes play. The Chiefs, that touchdown pass was just throw it up, and I don't care if it gets intercepted.
Right.
Is this play the equivalent of that, where he said, I don't care if I get an interception, I'm just going to throw it up because I know I have a penalty, but I haven't seen the penalty? That's calculus. Okay, if he's doing any of this, he is advancing past what the officials can ever keep up with, and I think it's a dangerous area. It's one thing to be a quarterback and know that guy's offsides. I'm totally comfortable with that.
Oh, yeah.
When Aaron Rodgers just heaves the ball up for an interception, a jump ball, and maybe a touchdown, and knows it's offsides, and when Patrick Mahomes did that to Tyreek Hill, I have no criticism of that. But if Patrick's starting to say, well, I think maybe there's going to be a flag or any of that, and just lofting it up in a dangerous area like that and hoping the officials will bail him out, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's a bad play by the Chiefs, and they got burned.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it possibly could have been Byron Pringle because I keep mistaking him for DeAnthony Thomas because he wears 13 now. But there was a Chiefs receiver in that pattern, in that area, which would have meant, okay, you called a play where two people are in the same area.
And again, the benefit of the doubt, when we see the all-22, those guys may have ran and made it look like after they saw the ball in the air. So they may have stayed on a pattern.
It still was too far away.
But I'll just say, back to this, I think Patrick's doing a little bit of, rather than saying, I see a human being wearing a Chiefs helmet running down the field, and I can put the ball on a dime downfield, which he can do. That's completely different. If he were trying to throw to Kelsey, what was he trying to time up? Of all the times he's thrown the ball in his life, he was getting mauled. He had no momentum. He wasn't into his double move, and I haven't seen if Kelsey even stopped. I'm not sure did he stop because he thought there was a penalty. But if Patrick's throwing it up, let's say forget penalties, forget danger over there, what was he throwing it to? Why loft the ball up in the air and just hope? You see that?
Right.
That seems to be slipping into his game. Hoping that he caught Kelsey over there is totally different than when he looks and goes, "You think you're covered? You think you got my guy? Watch this," and throw an accurate ball. I don't know if it's his foot. He started doing that in a Detroit game with receivers where I think he probably knew where they're supposed to be and they didn't. And rather than zipping it and knocking their helmet off, he could see they're a little out of whack and put a little air on the ball and go, I'm going to throw it over there where you should be. I hope you get there. And we missed that. That falls into that category. And my 2 minutes are up.
Yeah, they are. Let's talk about the Missouri Tigers. And got to call it an impressive win. I don't think they covered, if I remember correctly, but that doesn't matter. They were ahead all day long, a little bit sluggish in the first half, but came out and took control of the game. It kept allowing a touchdown to, bring the game back into play, but this is a conference football game. You're at home. You took care of business. Bravo.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get going. Start winning games like this, and don't let Mississippi be a factor early. We spent a lot of time talking about formulas to beat the Chiefs, and with Mississippi, the formula wasn't so much how you beat Missouri. The only way Mississippi's going to have success is run, and you've got to get out to a lead. You got to control the game and not let them live with that. And the fact that they had some open lanes and did a beautiful job of mixing quarterbacks and everything else. Credit Mississippi. They're trying to get better. It's more about the next game than it was beating Missouri. Missouri had them cleared and did a nice job. And I got to talk about one guy from Missouri that I love because I know him, Dawson Downing. He's a fourth-year player. He came as a walk-on from Bishop Miege, and one of the biggest surprises that he didn't get a scholarship around here. It is crazy. This guy is good. And Missouri's had a bunch of good running backs run through, so he's rarely been given an opportunity. Finally, they're giving him the ball. And he's not a superstar, and he's not a starter yet. Danny, we may not see him play hardly at all the next 3 games. I'm telling you, you give the ball to that guy, good things are going to happen. He's way better than anyone believes. He zipped a 50-yard touchdown run in the game, and he should be a starting running back in the Big 12/SEC. That's how good he is. He'll probably never be. He doesn't look the right size and all of that.
Right.
I'm telling you what, he is a bad, bad dude, and I'm glad he's getting in the rotation. Because here's a guy who'll come in late in the game, and he may get 70 yards rushing, average 8 yards a carry, and Mizzou fans may not even take notice. He's really good. It was fun to see him. And now Missouri gets to get rolling because do you realize the next game's at Vanderbilt?
Oh, yeah.
They lost to UNLV.
Right,
and
bad,
it wasn't
and
close.
bad. They got crushed.
So their coach is on a hot seat.
And also there would probably be 2/3 Missouri fans?
Yes, that's kind of the norm now.
Yeah.
The thing that's hurt Vanderbilt more than anything is Nashville's like the hottest, coolest place to
Right.
go in the world. I experienced it when K-State went down there. They took over the whole downtown. There were K-State people everywhere, so much money being spent. And then you go to the ball game, and Vanderbilt was pretty excited. They're playing pretty well under Mason at that time. and they were pretty excited and still had less than 50% of the fans.
Right.
Well, Vandy fans aren't excited right now.
No.
And they could go to the party downtown in the evening when the Missouri fans clear out. But it has become such a destination place.
Mm-hmm.
You know it, Danny. You've
Yes.
been down there enough. The weddings, I didn't know about this industry. What do they call those big things that everyone's kind of like pedaling a giant?
I don't know.
I don't know if you call it a bike or, but there's like a whole wedding party of. No, it's not the wedding party. It's only the ladies.
Oh, right.
You know, it's the bachelorette. Is that right? The bachelorette party. They go to Nashville. It is a booming business where women go down.
Because they had the story about there was many bachelorette parties that had been planned, and the bachelorettes didn't know that the NFL draft was there.
Yeah, they got
and and they were all mad. They were because
super
they
mad.
were ruined their bachelorette
you couldn't
parties.
even drive down the main street.
Right.
They got these big open, almost like giant open buses, and you'll just see music and a party going on. They have this giant bike system where like 10 people are pedaling at the same time.
Those, yeah.
But there are young women all around partying, wearing clothes that match each other, and say, "Hey, cheer for us! Susie's getting married."
Right.
You know what's going on, but it's just such a party destination place for everybody that Mizzou's like, "We're going."
Yeah,
I mean, let's go
exactly.
down there, and then you go into the stadium, and you have more fans. So it's time for them to get on a roll. It really is. The Kentuckys, the Arkansas, the Vanderbilts. Even though some of these road games, Missouri needs to start rolling, get up there, and they can win 9 games. They can win 9, and with a little magic, they have Florida's number, remember?
Yeah.
With a little magic, you could win the division. Georgia lost this week to South Carolina, and South Carolina did not have a prayer against Missouri. I mean, when you really look at it, Missouri was much better than South Carolina. So here we go. Is the East really open? Is there a chance that you could outpace Georgia? I don't know, but South Carolina looked like the better team down the stretch in that game. I watched the fourth quarter and the overtimes, and Georgia should have lost before they lost.
Right. Let's talk about the Sunflower State teams returning to action and whether they, in the remaining part of the season, what their chances are of getting much done. Let's start with Kansas State because I think their chances are much better. The Cats have time off. They didn't play very well in the 2 games right before the break. We know that they probably aren't going to tweak things very much. They're just going to try to do what they do better.
Yes, I think they just need to find their swagger. You might say the team picked 9th in the conference shouldn't have swagger, but they did. We spoke on College Game Day the other day, and I said to understand a little bit better where K-State is. Let's watch Baylor play against Texas Tech, and I think that they didn't let us down. Tech's played fine, but Baylor's a really good team, and it's undefeated right now, 6-0. And we said, let's see what happens with Mississippi State at Tennessee, and they lost.
Right.
And Tennessee was the better team all day. Mississippi State had to catch a break here or there to even make it close. Don't score a lot of points. So Mississippi State's not the dominant ranked team that we thought they were when K-State won. But K-State doesn't need to prove anything about that Mississippi State game. If they have the same swagger, they'll get things done because that's what leads to physicality coming off the ball on offense. It leads to strong, accurate passing and everyone feeling everything's fine, and it leads to third down conversions. Those are things K-State needs to do. But we really need to see, I think, K-State get better at is the run defense. And the K-State defense has been very inconsistent. There have been plenty of good plays. If I showed you the reel of good plays, there would be enough of them in any game, Danny, where you'd go, I feel pretty comfortable. It wouldn't be just like one highlight from this game and then 17 highlights from Bowling Green. I'm talking about I can show you highlights that last long enough that you're totally bought in. Like, I know what's going on. But then I might not show you a 80-yard touchdown run by Oklahoma State's Chuba Hubbard. I might not show a 42-yard walk-in, no one touches you run against Baylor when the game's on the line, or a backup quarterback running in for a touchdown and basically getting to the end zone from the 8-yard line or so without a Wildcat really knocking them backwards. The K-State defense is not getting their fits, and that means after the ball snapped, everyone has a gap, and they need to get to work. For instance, here's the easy challenge, Danny. If I got the guard tackle gap, the ball snapped, and they run a zone read type of play, do you realize if I hold that guard tackle position and I'm there with my numbers showing square and saying you can't run through here, I might actually have to go down the line 10 to 12 yards. You know what I'm saying? The line doesn't hold still nowadays. They don't just like run into you. They move. So for you to keep gap integrity, you got to move 8 or 10 yards sideways and not get pushed back or turn sideways and stay square. Well, if you do that, congratulations. But did the other 8 guys who are supposed to have the run fits do the same? And did the linebacker who's running along looking at the running back, here's what you got to do, Danny, stay on his back hip. You might say, well, he's really fast and he's running to the outside. No. You got to stay on the back hip because you can somehow shove him out of bounds. What's death is when you get on his front side, he plants his foot, and your momentum carries you just enough, and he cuts back and runs the old Denver Bronco way of running the football, let everybody overplay and get going upfield. So K-State and then the safeties, they're so worried about the pass, right? Everyone's back, and we're seeing a lot of 3-3-5 defense, and K-State's shown a diversified defense. They're not playing the same thing all the time, which creates more of a challenge in that on this defense, on this play, I'm the safety, and if I've got the tight end to the sideline gap, I got to get there. And you're on, but I was just 10 yards back here, and then I went back 12 yards because I thought it might be a passing play, and they got a super fast receiver, and now you're telling me I got to run by the receiver who's blocking me, the trash and traffic of others, and get to my fit. That's hard to do, but that's what defenses do. Good defenses get there. And right now, K-State's been a little inconsistent, and Baylor was good enough, and Oklahoma State, without a doubt, is not a good matchup because Chuba Hubbard finds the weakness in of your 11 guys, which one didn't do their job. And it's not right or wrong. It's consistent. We all got to work together. And that's the thing. K-State cannot allow these 10, 20, 30, 60-yard runs and add that to the rest of the game because K-State wants to play a controlled, tight game and be the better team on third down, frustrate you, and find a way to win. That's okay. You can win under that formula, but you can't allow them a free run for a 40-yard touchdown once in a while, and that becomes the difference. And that's basically what happened in the last 2 games. The scoreboard didn't look that close at the end because there was a couple of runs in there that really cost K-State. The timing of the Baylor runs were just the worst time ever. And K-State did not allow that to happen against Mississippi State. They did in the last 2 games. It's the thing they need to get cleaned up.
Kansas will have a tougher time cleaning up no matter what they try because they'll play Texas. Now, the hope is that when this Red River rivalry game has been played in the past, a lot of times there's been a hangover for the teams afterwards. Probably not enough of a hangover for Kansas to win the game. They're not playing at home. A million things are going against them in this particular game. So the reassertion or the reinvention of the offense, as it were, under the new coach is going to be difficult to get any traction against Texas because they have good athletes on defense and they're very motivated to, they played a good game against Oklahoma. I mean, it was just, that's a great team. It was a hard-fought game. They lost. So for Kansas to get any confirmation that what they decided to do was a good thing is going to be tough.
It will, but, I look at this game it's all about Texas. When they lost to Oklahoma, that could be a really pissed-off team ready to roll. But guess what? That doesn't always happen.
Right.
A coach can, Tom Herman's mad, but that has nothing to do with the players. They are just as likely, get your coin out and flip it, just as likely to mail this thing in and just kind of whine around all week long and listen to the coaches yell at them and tell them, we're going to tackle full speed this week, which they are. We're going to practice tackling drills even when we're in shorts because you couldn't tackle Jalen Hurts for Oklahoma and a wide receiver and just missed tackles all over the field is the way Texas looks at it, you know? And the players oftentimes just get mad at the coaches and saying they're being too mean. They always overreact when we lose to Oklahoma. They always overreact. This guy's a Heisman Trophy winner. Sure, he broke a couple plays. How about the offense? Did you see them get sacked 9 times? They can easily just go, not even think about Kansas.
Right.
And just go lay out there and lay around and let KU do their thing and keep it close and win the game. Or they could treat them like TCU when they lost to SMU. Oh, my.
Right.
When TCU got mad about losing to SMU, they acted like SMU had their uniforms on, even though those were Jayhawks out there.
Right.
They crushed them right from the start. I think it's 50-50. Either Texas is going to be really mad and just engulf KU's offense, or they might just lay around and say whatever, which you can't do that against Puka Williams. He can have success. I think KU's all bought in on the new coordinator. I think Les Koenig is, exceedingly average, just one of those names that pops up, like baseball managers.
Right.
You're a baseball guy, Danny.
Yeah.
You know how that, why is that guy the manager? Because he's been a manager for 3 other teams. And
Right.
What's his record? Well, slightly under 500, but he's got a lot of games, and he's old school, and why don't we make him our manager? isn't Ned Yost like a big hero around here, and he has a losing record as a Royals manager?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If Ned would agree to manage someone else next year, wouldn't they be happy? Like, oh, yeah, we got Ned Yost.
Right.
So I think Les Canning's that kind of coach. The game's it's not in his wheelhouse. He wasn't picked to be the offensive coordinator. So I don't think this is a bad move. They got a young guy who's totally excited, dotting every I, crossing every T, saying, he's catching the players after practice and giving a little discussion. He's catching Puka Williams and saying, I've coached guys at Auburn who are, dominant NFL players, and you look just like him. So he's got a lot of credibility with the younger guys. He's been given a lot of credit for many things at Kansas, and maybe he deserves it. He doesn't know any better than let's get to work. So, like P.J. Fleck, who was the coach at Western Michigan when they finally went undefeated until they went to their bowl game, and then he got the job at Minnesota. He's kind of got that attitude, like, why not me? I'm the little engine that could. So I think it's a good decision for Kansas. I don't think they take any step backwards. They did it at the right time. It wasn't about, we had a bad performance against Oklahoma. They didn't offensively.
Right. It's
just they had 2 weeks in Texas, which is a nothing-to-lose game unless Texas is really mad and decides to crush them. So this is a big game for KU because if the new coordinator's first impression is getting crushed by Texas, Les Miles will trot out the field going, oh, that was Texas, and they were mad. We did nothing wrong.
Right.
He'll put it in perspective, right?
Right.
Not the players. If they get crushed, they're going to go, different package, same result. This candy bar didn't taste good, and just because it's a new package. But if they have any success and can move the ball and score a couple of touchdowns in the red zone, who cares if it's 52-20? If you get 20, they're going to be all in with the new guy.
Right.
So there's a lot at stake because he needs to make sure he doesn't look in the mirror and go, yeah, I was the Bethel head coach, and I've worked so hard and waited for this opportunity, but what in the heck am I doing being the offensive coordinator at Kansas? Or he might say,
hey, we did a good job today.
Why be intimidated?
Right.
I love these players, and I'm going to fight like crazy, and this is my opportunity. You think I'm going to give up? No way. And the schedule gets a little bit more preferable for Kansas after they get through Texas. So I think this game's about Texas. They could crush a lot of KU hopes
to build momentum.
They can help Texas Tech beat Kansas next.
Right.
If they just put the hammer down. Sorry, Mitch. Put the hammer down because they're so mad at Oklahoma.
Right.
But I'm totally conflicted about what Texas is going to do. I'm just as likely to see them go, Coach, quit yelling at me. Watch this.
Right.
What do you mean we're only ahead 17-14 at the half?
We'll
be
them.
fine.
Yep. Stan, always a pleasure. We got to break down a lot of great things, and you kept me on course for my little hoped-for diversion to another week. Thank you for keeping me on course. That's the way that Stan Weber does things. He's a CFO. He keeps things in order, and he kept things in order today on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by Park University.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.